We all have that one movie. The rainy Saturday, the DVD you wore out, the poster you actually hung on your wall, and then you rewatched it. Maybe last year, maybe last month, and something was off. Look, nostalgia is a liar. We know this. But some of these films weren't just let down by nostalgia. They were genuinely, measurably worse than we remembered. The effects didn't just date, they embarrassed. The dialogue didn't just creak, it made you reach for the remote. And a few of them had something uglier underneath that we simply weren't equipped to notice at the time. These are 10 sci-fi classics that have aged terribly. Some of these are going to hurt. I'm Bob, this is the Sci-Fi Graveyard. Let's get into it. Number 10, Independence Day, 1996. The summer of 1996. Independence Day wasn't just a movie, it was an event. The trailers alone had people losing their minds. That shot of the White House exploding became one of the most iconic images in blockbuster history. $300 million domestic. Will Smith became the biggest movie star on the planet overnight. And honestly, for a while, it earned all of that. But here's the thing nobody wanted to say out loud for about a decade. The climax of this film hinges on Jeff Goldblum uploading a computer virus from a mid-90s laptop into an alien mothership. Just sit with that for a second. A civilization advanced enough to cross galaxies, park city-sized warships over every major population center on Earth, and they're running software compatible with a human PowerBook? In 1996, computers were still basically magic to most people, so we all just went with it. Try explaining that scene to anyone under 25 today. Watch the light leave their eyes. The characters are thin. I don't think that's controversial. Will Smith's Captain Hiller is charismatic because Will Smith is charismatic. Take away his magnetism, and there's nothing. No arc. No real motivation beyond punching aliens and landing one-liners. Goldblum plays Goldblum. Pullman delivers that famous speech and... Okay, I know people love this speech. I know. But it sounds like something a motivational speaker would post on LinkedIn. It does. I'm sorry. What really gets more glaring every year, though, is how aggressively American-centric the whole film is. The entire planet is under attack, but the movie only cares about what's happening in the US. Other countries get 30 seconds of screen time to cheer once America figures it out. British pilots, Middle Eastern fighters, Russian soldiers, all just standing around waiting for Washington to save them. In 1996, this felt patriotic. Now it feels like a guy who did 10% of a group project and put only his name on it. Number 9, Tron, 1982. I want to be clear about something. What Tron attempted in 1982 was genuinely visionary. Personal computers barely existed. The internet was decades away. And here was a film taking audiences inside a computer. Not as a metaphor, not as a quick visual gag, but as the entire setting. Nobody had tried anything like it. That's the good part. Here's the rest. Those effects didn't just age, they collapsed. The glowing neon landscapes, the light cycles, none of it looks like a digital frontier anymore. It looks like a screensaver. And the visual effects industry moved so fast after Tron that within a few years, its look went from revolutionary to quaint. By Jurassic Park in '93, it already felt like a museum piece. But honestly, the visuals aren't even what kills it on a rewatch. It's the explaining. Because the film had to introduce computers to an audience that mostly didn't understand them. Characters spend enormous stretches just telling you things. What programs do, what the grid is, how data works. In 1982, sure, that was necessary. In 2026, it's like watching someone explain at great length how a light switch works. And the pacing. God, the pacing. Scenes that are supposed to be tense, disc battles, light cycle chases, play out with all the urgency of a chess match between two people who forgot it was their turn. Disney clearly knew the original couldn't hold up. Tron Legacy came in 2010 with a massive budget and a Daft Punk soundtrack that honestly deserved a better movie. It underperformed. Then Tron Ares. They keep chasing the brand while quietly admitting the original became unwatchable. Tron deserves credit for what it tried, but trying only gets you so far. Number 8, Logan's Run, 1976. The premise of Logan's Run practically sells itself. Future society, 2274. Humanity lives in a sealed, domed city built entirely for pleasure. No work, no struggle, no responsibility. The catch? Everyone dies at 30. When your time's up, you float into the air in this public ritual called carousel and explode while the crowd cheers, because they think you're being renewed. Try to escape, and elite enforcers called Sandmen hunt you down. That's a killer concept. In 1976, this thing won an Academy Award for visual effects, which is honestly hard to believe now, because those Oscar-winning sets look like leftover materials from a community theater production. The domed city is obviously a shopping mall, and not even a nice one. The carousel sequence, which is supposed to be terrifying, features people on wires floating in front of what is clearly a disco ball. The laser guns look like flashlights wrapped in tinfoil, and the robot box, meant to be menacing, I don't even know how to describe it. Someone glued kitchen appliances together. That's the best I can do. There's also a gender problem, and this one actually bothers me more than the effects. Logan's Run presents a society built on hedonism, and the way it shows that hedonism is almost entirely through women being sexually available. Jenny Aguter's Jessica spends most of the film in outfits that suggest whoever designed the costumes thought futuristic and lingerie were the same word. Female characters exist as set decoration first and people second. In the 70s, nobody blinked. Now it undercuts every philosophical point the film is trying to make about freedom and mortality. You can't take the big ideas seriously when the movie doesn't take half its cast seriously. The big reveal, that there's an entire world outside the dome where people age naturally, should hit like a bombshell. It doesn't. The film burned all its energy getting there through long stretches of wandering and conversations that just repeat the same points over and over. Hollywood's been trying to remake this for over a decade. Ryan Gosling was attached at one point. Nothing happened. The premise is still brilliant. Nobody can figure out what to do with it. Number 7. Weird Science, 1985. John Hughes understood teenage loneliness better than almost anyone. The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, 16 Candles. Well, 16 Candles has its own problems, but still, real films about real feelings. Weird Science is the one you don't bring up at the reunion. Two unpopular teenage boys use a computer to create their ideal woman. Not a metaphor. They feed images into a keyboard, hook it to a Barbie doll, and through some unexplained electrical surge, produce a fully formed adult woman named Lisa. Gorgeous, brilliant, and existing entirely to make their lives better. I need to stop here for a second because I can already feel the comments forming. It's a comedy. It's a product of its time. You're overanalyzing it. Yeah, maybe. But just describe the plot out loud to someone who's never heard of it, and tell me how far you get before they start looking at you funny. Kelly LeBrock is genuinely magnetic in this, and she brings warmth to every scene. Hall and Mitchell Smith have real chemistry. The Hughes charm papers over a lot in the moment. But underneath all of it, two kids manufacture a woman. She exists because they built her. Her entire purpose is defined by what they want. She teaches them confidence, fights their battles, throws their parties. She never once expresses a desire that doesn't orbit their needs. The film doesn't interrogate this for even a second. It celebrates it. The shower scene. The moments where they look at her like a product they ordered. The running joke that creating a woman is basically the same as building a model car. All played for innocent laughs, except the innocence evaporated a long time ago. LeBrock herself has talked about this with a mix of fondness and discomfort. She knows what the film was asking her to be. Hughes's other films survived because they were built on real emotions. This one was built on a fantasy that curdled. Number 6. Total Recall, 1990. Okay, I have to tell you about a scene. 20 minutes into Total Recall, Arnold Schwarzenegger is trying to get through a security checkpoint disguised as a heavy-set woman. The disguise malfunctions. The animatronic face starts glitching, repeating 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks in this increasingly unhinged loop, while Arnold sits there behind it trying to keep a straight face. In 1990, this was a tense set piece. Now, it is one of the funniest things in any major Hollywood film. I am not exaggerating. That single scene tells you everything about how completely Total Recall has changed categories without anyone voting on it. Arnold and Verhoeven teaming up, over 260 million worldwide, a Special Achievement Academy Award. Based on a Philip K. Dick story about a construction worker who discovers he might be a secret agent with implanted memories. Genuinely clever in places. But those effects, the Mars exteriors are clearly painted backdrops behind soundstage sets, and once you see it, it's over. The mutant prosthetics range from creative to laughably rubbery. The depressurization scene, Quaid's eyes bulging out of his skull, that was meant to be terrifying. It plays like a Looney Tunes gag now. There's no getting around it. And here's the thing about Arnold. In 1990, the wooden delivery and the accent were features, not bugs. Everyone knew what an Arnold movie was, but we expect more from Sci-Fi now. Lines like, "Consider that a divorce," and See you at the party, Richter. They're fun, don't get me wrong, but they belong in a parody. Not a film that wants you to take its memory and identity themes seriously. You can't have it both ways. Or rather, you could in 1990. You can't anymore. The 2012 remake with Colin Farrell tried to play it straight. Removed the camp, took the concept seriously, added sleeker visuals. Forgotten within weeks. Which kind of proves the point. Strip away the campy charm, and there's not actually that much underneath. Number 5. Planet of the Apes, 1968. That ending. You know the one. Charlton Heston on his knees, the half-buried Statue of Liberty, the realization that he's been on Earth the entire time. It's been parodied so many times that people who've never seen the film know exactly how it goes. And it still works. Nearly 60 years later, it's still genuinely haunting. The 90 minutes before it, though, that's where we need to talk. Because getting to that ending means sitting through a film that moves at the speed of continental drift. Heston crashes on what he thinks is an alien planet, gets captured by intelligent apes, and spends most of the movie just arguing. Arguing for his own humanity while being treated like an animal. The ideas are real. Civilization, prejudice, the arrogance of assuming we're the top of the hierarchy, but the delivery is brutal. Scenes that should take 2 minutes take 10. The middle act, where Taylor is essentially on trial, genuinely feels like it was directed by someone being paid by the hour. I don't say that to be cruel. I say it because I checked my phone 3 times. The 8 prosthetics won John Chambers a special honorary Oscar. Watching them after Andy Serkis's motion capture Caesar in the modern trilogy is almost unfair, but we live in the world we live in. Kim Hunter and Roddy McDowall do heroic work trying to emote through all that latex. It's just not enough. And Heston. I know this is going to bother people. His performance was considered intense and commanding in the 60s. Watching it now, it's theatrical to the point of unintentional comedy. Every line at maximum volume, every gesture enormous. The modern films proved this story works best when it's quiet and grounded. Heston's version is neither. But he gave us that ending, and I think that might be enough to forgive the rest. Might. Number 4. The Fifth Element, 1997. I have a confession. I still kinda love this movie. I know I'm not supposed to, not on this list, but I need to be honest about it before I tear it apart. Luc Besson's The Fifth Element showed up in 1997 like nothing else that year. Jean-Paul Gaultier costumes so outrageous they made Star Wars look like business casual. Bruce Willis as a cab driver in a futuristic New York. Mila Jovovich dropping into his taxi in thermal bandages as some kind of supreme being. Chris Tucker as Ruby Rhod, whose energy level could power a small city. Over 260 million worldwide. Instant cult classic. But here's where I have to stop loving it and start being honest. Peel back the style and there's almost nothing there. Evil is coming. 4 stones plus Lilu can stop it. That's it. That's the entire plot of a 2-hour film. Willis is the reluctant hero. Jovovich is the wide-eyed innocent. Gary Oldman is the villain because someone had to be. Nobody grows. Nobody changes. The film never earns its emotional moments because it never bothers giving its characters actual interiors. And Lilu. This is the one that's gotten harder to sit with. She's introduced naked, assembled by machines, and spends the entire movie in varying states of vulnerability that the film plays as simultaneously sexy and childlike. She barely speaks English. She depends entirely on Corbin Dallas for everything. And her big weapon against cosmic evil? Love. She saves the universe because Bruce Willis kisses her at the right moment. In 1997, she was considered an iconic female character. I'm not sure that holds up anymore. I think she might just be a fantasy figure with a savior arc stapled on. Ruby Rhod is the other thing nobody can agree on. Tucker improvised most of it, screaming, voguing through every scene. It either works completely or it ruins whole sections of the movie for you, and the character leans into stereotypes that are, let's just say they're noticeable now in a way they weren't then. There's no middle ground. You know which side you're on within 30 seconds. The Fifth Element is pure vibes. Sometimes vibes are enough. Sometimes they're not. Number 3. Blade Runner, 1982. Alright, this one's going to get me in trouble. I know it. You know it. Let's just do this. Ridley Scott's Blade Runner is one of the greatest science fiction films ever made. I'm saying that up front because what comes next is going to sound like I don't believe it, and I want to be clear. I do. The world building is extraordinary. That rain-soaked, neon-drenched LA of 2019 is still one of the most influential visual environments in cinema history. Vangelis' score is haunting. The questions about memory, identity, what it means to be human, woven in with a sophistication that was genuinely rare for the genre. Roy Batty's Tears and Rain monologue is one of the finest 2 minutes in any film from that decade. I will fight anyone on this. Okay, now the other part. Every significant female character in Blade Runner is a replicant, an artificial being created to serve human needs. Pris is categorized as a basic pleasure model. Zora works as an exotic dancer. Rachel exists in permanent confusion about her own identity, which makes her vulnerable and dependent on Deckard for answers about who she actually is. The film doesn't interrogate any of this. It's just the wallpaper. You're supposed to accept it and move on. Then there's the scene. You probably already know which one I mean. Deckard and Rachel in his apartment. She tries to leave. He blocks the door, pushes her against the wall, tells her what to say. The scene is shot and scored like a romance. The moment these two finally connect. Except she says no. She tries to leave. He won't let her. You don't need to squint to see the problem. It's right there. It was always right there. We just didn't have the framework to talk about it the way we do now. When 2049 came out in 2017, it kicked all of this back open. Villeneuve's sequel was visually stunning, but drew criticism for repeating the same patterns. Holographic girlfriends, female characters defined by biology. Some people argued it was commentary. Others said it was just repetition with a bigger budget. Nobody really settled it. None of this erases what the film accomplished. I need to say that clearly. But greatness and flawlessness aren't the same thing, and pretending they are doesn't help anyone, least of all the film. Number 2, RoboCop, 1987. RoboCop is the one on this list I'll go to bat for the hardest, which makes it the most painful to put here. Verhoeven made a joke, in the best possible sense. Savage satire of corporate greed, media manipulation, the militarization of policing, all stuffed inside a gratuitously violent action movie. The fake commercials, the SUX 6000, the board game Nukem were biting. Peter Weller's performance as Murphy, the cop killed and rebuilt as a corporate product, was genuinely moving. The film was smart, subversive, and in retrospect, almost uncomfortably prophetic. That's the tragedy of it. Corporate overreach, privatized policing, media as propaganda. These aren't abstract anxieties anymore. They're Tuesday. The themes got more relevant. The vehicle they arrived in rusted anyway. The violence is the main thing. It was always extreme by design. That was the point. But the scene where Murphy gets gunned down was supposed to horrify you as commentary. Without the cultural context 1987 audiences brought with them instinctively, it just looks gratuitous. The toxic waste scene, henchman dissolves, gets hit by a car, was darkly funny once. Now you just kind of sit there. And I think there's a subtler problem. Satire only works if the audience recognizes it as satire. Modern viewers coming to this cold, no context, no film school background, frequently mistake the intentional excess for bad filmmaking. And honestly, can you blame them? If someone told you, this extremely violent, extremely over-the-top action movie from the 80s is actually a brilliant critique of capitalism, you'd be skeptical too. The franchise's decline made everything worse. RoboCop 2 was a mess. RoboCop 3 was unwatchable. The 2014 remake gutted the satire and replaced it with nothing. Each failure dimmed the original a little more. It proved RoboCop wasn't a franchise. It was a one-time accident. Verhoeven caught lightning in a bottle. Nobody else could even find the bottle. Number 1. Armageddon, 1998. Yeah, you knew this was coming. Michael Bay doesn't make movies. He makes sensory events. Loud, fast, overwhelming, designed to bypass your brain and push adrenaline directly into your bloodstream. Armageddon was the peak of that. Asteroid the size of Texas heading for Earth. NASA's plan? Drill a nuke into it and blow it apart from the inside. The team they send? Not astronauts, not scientists, oil drillers, led by Bruce Willis. Because apparently, it's easier to teach roughnecks about space than to teach astronauts to use a drill. $500 million worldwide. Biggest film of 1998. Aerosmith's I Don't Want to Miss a Thing became inescapable. And then people started thinking about it. Which, to be fair, was never part of the plan. Ben Affleck, on the DVD commentary, of all places, asked Bay why it wouldn't be easier to just train astronauts to drill. Bay reportedly told him to shut up. I bring this up because that exchange is basically the film's thesis statement. Don't ask questions, just watch the explosion. NASA has apparently used Armageddon as a training exercise, not to show recruits what space missions look like, but to have them count the errors. The total is somewhere around 168 scientific inaccuracies in 150 minutes. More than one per minute. The physics, the space travel, the drilling, the asteroid science, all wrong. The only thing the film gets right is that space exists. But here's what actually bothers me more than the bad science. Because bad science in a blockbuster, fine, whatever, it's a movie. What bothers me is the emotional manipulation. That scene where Willis says goodbye to Liv Tyler through the monitor. In 1998, that worked on people. The swelling score, the tears, the sacrifice. Watch it now and you can see every wire, every calculated beat. It doesn't feel earned because the film never treated these people as actual characters. They're delivery systems for one big cry at the end. You don't feel sad, you feel handled. Armageddon was the peak of late 90s blockbuster logic. Bigger means better, spectacle replaces substance, and audiences will take what they're given. It was designed to be consumed, not remembered. The uncomfortable part is how much it shaped what came after. That logic didn't go away when the credits rolled, it metastasized. We're still dealing with it. So, 10 films. Some of them genuinely important, some of them just big and loud, all of them cracking in ways that are hard to unsee. If one of these picks made you mad, good. That means the movie meant something to you when it counted. I'm not trying to take that away from anyone. But there's a difference between a film meaning something to you and a film actually holding up. And I think we've spent a long time pretending those are the same thing. Here's what keeps me up at night though. Whatever we're calling a masterpiece right now, it's already aging. Something you love, something I love, is going to end up on a list like this in 15 years. And some guy on YouTube is going to explain exactly why, and we're going to hate him for it. Anyway, what's yours? The one you can't really defend anymore, but you'll never throw away. Drop it below. I'll see you in the comments.